Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
It's Wednesday night. It means gradual fade from Ryan. That's what that means.
We needed to make sure
What's
we could
going
hear
on,
you because
boys?
we're dealing with some Kate classic internet here.
Well, it is fucking crazy windy out. So, and I live in a very old apartment. As Ryan knows, actually, Ryan's seen like the old ass building I live in, and our power lines are not protected underground. But I'm like to you, is that what's happening?
A little bit.
Yeah, I said like 20 seconds ago. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to go out and come back in. I'll be right back.
Okay. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. The weather's great out here. It was almost 60 degrees and sunny and not windy.
Same here. We had a nice high 50 degree weather day. I was like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah,
After we had record colds last week.
We've had less than an inch of snow so far.
We've had more than that. We're probably in like 3 to 5 over a couple storms. But like a week and a half ago, we had just pure ice everywhere. So weird now that we're at 55.
How are you, Ryan?
I'm in a good mood.
Do tell.
Well, I think anyone here should know why I'm in a good mood. Because I cheer for a team that's going to the Super Bowl.
That's how much I forgot. I didn't think about that.
Pass, catch, run. Actually, I'm gonna be honest.
Cheer for
I get too nervous to actually to like. I move over the game, like it says. I move past the game quickly, but I do get nervous for the outcome. So I almost just want it done. Like just let me know if I'm happy or I'm moving on.
I am not excited about the game whatsoever. I'll watch it, but couldn't care less.
I don't blame you. Like, I mean, that's how I feel most years. It's not like I'm. Oh, wait.
Hello.
Have we improved? Oh, there you go.
Hey, I'm here. I made it. Delayed but not denied with the fellas. Guys, we're all back in full strength. The three of us are here. Or at least we are for the time being. We'll see what happens on my end. But it always feels like Joe's having a social life like some kind of idiot, or I'm covering at Fight Club like some kind of nerd. Or Ryan sometimes is like going to hockey games and living it up with his little Flyers life over there or whatever. His Eagles are going to the Super Bowl.
Just talking about it.
Shit? How about that shit? It's so funny how many people are like, am I rooting for the Eagles? Because they are like not as in on the Chiefs franchise being the next Patriots franchise. I think a lot of people don't have a problem with the Chiefs. I think they more are just like, we just got out of an era where the Patriots were dominant as fuck. It would be nice to not have that just happen again. And this is also like weirdly a likable-ish Eagles team, I feel like. Like a lot of people just like Jalen Hurts. And you also have Dickerson, who's number 69 with the name Dickerson. Like, how do you not love that? So
he knew what he was doing.
And he knew exactly what he was doing.
And Saquon is awesome.
Yeah, he is. And you do have a Nebraska player, so I have to root for that guy.
Who's our Nebraska player?
Your starting center.
I don't know where our players. I'm not one of those. Like I know Saquon went to Penn State. That's about it for me.
Some kind of Eagles fan you are.
It's so true. I also don't follow that because I went to Seton Hall, which didn't have a football team, but it is my maybe a top 3 Key and Peele sketch of all time. Everybody saying which college they're from, and then the white guy just being from Brigham Young University. Excellent stuff. But
To be honest, I don't listen. Like, I have the games muted most of the time. I don't like commentary.
you don't like commentary.
You're on the
Never.
wrong show.
Why?
What
I
if
like
Nigel
wrestling
McGuinness
commentary.
was doing commentary for football?
I might listen to it, but like, it's.
How do you feel about
I
people
don't
who commentary for Wrestle at Sight?
they need some help.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. We could use some assistance, just like consistency in the cards that were given. That would be nice. But Joe, have I been on since you were another year older and wiser? I can't remember.
I don't
I
know.
don't think I have.
Maybe forget.
I mean, yeah, it's true. It's true, but
No, you haven't.
I don't think I have. Yeah, because I had 2 weeks unexpectedly that I was out. But we are a wiser show now. So thank you for leading the way on being smart, because Lord knows it ain't gonna be Ryan, and it ain't gonna be me either, realistically. So
How dare you? How
this guy
dare you?
rewriting history. I mean,
we're not even going to comment that I've upgraded my setting once again. I'm more focused on me. There's not so much empty space. We're not even going to comment on that.
I'm actually, honestly, being out the past couple of weeks, I'm very upset that I almost didn't come back to the show. I'll be honest, because Ryan replaced his chair, and he doesn't just fall down midstream anymore. And that was really fun for the rest of us.
It's really frustrating for me. It's why I never focus too hard on how my camera focused on me, because I'm like, I'll start here and I'll end down here.
It's not good.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then,
it was really fun though.
and then it really hurt to sit in.
Well, that part's that's also not great. That's also not great. But
You want to know what made me decide I absolutely need to get a new chair?
I love that it hurt and I was falling mid-broadcast were not the deciding factors.
Well,
but
no,
go on.
both of those things are part of it, but it was one event that made me realize I can't do this.
What's that?
Your New Japan watch along.
Oh no!
By the time we got to the end of it, I was in so much pain. I was
Oof.
like, this isn't normal.
That is a long haul, very late at night, and you were the only one that was there for the full thing. So thank you for that. But
It was fun. It just hurt.
yeah, that's not good. That's not good. When I started podcasting, I'm not kidding, all the old ones, when we started Mark Order in the COVID days, I used to sit on my couch or sit on my living room floor with my setup on my ottoman, because I fidget so damn much that it was like the only place that I could like readjust, like typical ADD kid, just like constantly shifting and moving. I still do that in my chair, but well before I was doing this with like a proper even camera, I think at that point. So, but
I think, yeah, you were just using your laptop, I think, at that point.
I think so. Yeah, this was never supposed to turn into anything serious, even remotely, not even a little bit. So here we are talking about wrestling every week. But it's nice to be full strength. It's nice to be all together. Joe, dare I say, you're looking lean over there, buddy.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of weight. It's been great.
It's noticeable. You look great. You feel good? Look and feel good.
Apparently, that's what my doctors tell me. So,
well, that's good. Love that for you. Entering your new year, like looking fresh. I like that for you. Good shit.
How are you?
I'm good. I am like very over this weather, but other than that, I'm good. It was nice. Beautiful today, and then I just checked my weather app because I was like, is this wind gonna die down so that I can do the show? It now feels like 14 degrees. It was in the 50s earlier. So gnarly, but I'm good. Slowly but surely, like readjusting some things. Feeling good about progress made in the month of January and Kate's little life here in Somerville, New Jersey. But
this little life of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
We're gonna let it shine, guys. We're gonna let it shine. Thank you guys for holding it down while I was out. As usual, it always comes in bunches. I'm never off for like a week. It's like, hey, I'm going to be gone for like a month straight. But we've got some Dynamite to get into. Feels like we're trending in the right direction. Last time we were on, Ryan and I were like, well, we loved this episode. And Joe was like, it wasn't the reset that we needed. But I think over the past couple weeks, kind of trended toward a refreshed feeling. Like even Collision was really, really strong on Saturday. So I'm excited to get into it. What did you guys kind of think overall of Dynamite tonight? I'll throw it to Joe first because he was the three of us were together.
I thought it was pretty solid overall. There's a couple of little nitpicky things that I could have done without. Mainly two aspects of the show that I could have done without. And we'll talk about stuff later. But otherwise, I thought the matches were good. I liked Yuta and Jay White, and I liked the main event. So
I also liked it. It's so funny because I feel like more than ever, the things that people have a problem with on AEW are people unanimously have an issue with, rather than just like, it's not my taste. It's like the same stuff that people are very tired of. But Ryan, what did you think of tonight's episode?
I enjoyed the episode. They're like, Joe, there's a couple things, and they have started to fix the big issues I was having. There's still one overarching one that I'm having an issue with that we need to address. But other than that, I think they're finally Collision. One of the big things they're starting to, since we're not going to cover, is Collision actually having big moments again.
Yeah, that was really encouraging to see. But I did just also want to say hi to Jesse Ozog in the chat.
right.
Hi to everyone in the chat. Hi to Tim McFowle. Hi to Tim McFowle. Hi to Big G. Hi to Scott George. Hi, of course, to Taylor Cannon, who's always so great to us. But Jesse Ozog, a special place in our little waving routine. But he says, hi, Kate. Hi, Joe. That is an appropriate response. Well, let's recap a couple of things. The biggest one is this news that went up about an hour ago via Fightful Select. Will Hobbs had some stitches done, so he was not cleared tonight. He was willing to perform, but the reason we got this pre-tape tonight was because of that. He's not in rough shape. It's nothing that's going to keep him out of action for a while, but you got to have healed stitches in order to compete, and his just aren't healed up yet. So I thought it was a pretty good little pre-tape considered. But Joe, what did you think of the pre-tape that we got? Did it feel like it was last minute to you? Did you feel like the not being medically cleared thing was just storyline, or did you think it was for realsies?
I thought it was for storyline, having watched the match, but then I thought, well, maybe it's not, because he has a history of bad luck. When he's, has some momentum, a setback happens. So I'm glad to hear there's nothing major. I was worried about that more than anything. But I really want them to do something with him now that he's back and he's not in a weird tag team with anyone.
I agree, and it feels like we saw on Collision. I don't know if you were able to catch up on any of it, Joe, but like, it sounds like they're starting a Big Bill Will Hobbs program, which is just like a generational meat lore for years to come, I feel like. So I hope that's a proper title adjacent program, since he lost 2 title shots in a row, right? He lost the international title shot with Takeshita, and he lost the Casino Gauntlet that he won. He lost that title shot to Mox, obviously. But that feels like a really fun possible program because it makes Hobbs the small guy in that situation. So I like where that's going. Ryan, any thoughts on the minor injury, really the just unhealed aspect of it, and what we've got cooking for Will Hobbs right now?
Didn't realize that was what was going on, so thank you for telling me that, because I did not know it was stitches. I like Joe said, I think the promo was good. He's gotten much better at talking, and he might also be one of these guys that is served best by these pre-recorded either interviews or vignettes. Some guys just are. I think Hook's one of them, maybe Hobbs. I mean, it's just certain guys. Not to say that he's actually improved in front of the live crowd too, but I just feel like when he's going out and gets his piece, it just sounds so much better. The feud's going to be fun. I mean, listen, regardless of what you think about the learning tree, Big Bill's a lot of fun to watch. And the way that went down, just attacking him in the parking lot from the get-go and carrying it through the night was a lot of fun. I don't know when I started watching NXT. That was the only confusing part, but after that, it all leveled out.
I agree. I think the Aura guys are sometimes helped by those like those backstages. I was so frustrated when the Book of Hobbs turned out to be a weird QTV left turn because I felt like those vignettes were so cool too. And he does just feel like a different level of comfortable for sure. But also when you can play with like cool backgrounds and camera angles for a guy like that, it just ends up being something very fun. So another note was just that it sounded like morale was much higher than it's been after this week's Collision. That episode was spectacular pretty much all around. And then the staff felt it too. It sounds like the talent felt it too, according to Fightful Select. So some good news there, because I felt like everybody that I saw that had watched it was raving about it on the timelines. It sounds like that's the backstage too. So you guys can jump in if there's anything that you want to say about that, but that was more just like kind of an encouraging note to see.
I just want to point out a great comment that my parking lot shout deserved a bigger pop. Thanks, Tim.
Oh my God, the parking lot. There you go.
You missed it? You didn't understand what I meant by NXT?
I actually, honestly, I went through my notes, so I didn't. I heard the first half of what you said, and then I was trying to organize.
All they do in NXT is fight in parking lots.
Oh my God. That is all they do.
But I mean, I got nothing to add. I don't have a lot to add. I mean, it's cool. I like hearing that morale is good because I just feel like that translates to on TV for me as a fan. I don't know why, but it just feels like anytime I've heard reports out there where they're like morale is bad, it's like you can tell somehow. I don't know. Though that could just be the coincidence that your morale is better when you're doing better things.
Sure. Yeah.
So like it may just be, we may be looking at it I may be looking at the wrong way, going, oh, morale helps with the product, where it's like, no, it just makes morale better. But I think a big deal is just treating Collision like an actual show. Like I've said it from day one, I don't mind different wrestlers on there. I don't mind different feuds on there. I think that's actually important to get everyone seen, but you need big moments. It felt like nothing was happening there. Things would happen, but nothing was like. So even just a small
titles
thing
on the show. This company has like 400 titles, and none of them were on Collision.
Exactly. So just having the big Tony Storm reveal happen on Collision is a big deal, because it also just is like, all right, maybe they're going to put some time in here that makes me feel like I'm not just watching this as just a fun little let me see some matches that I don't care about. Like now there's a reason.
Is it coincidence with the timing that once they dropped Rampage from the shows of having to do it creative for their hour, that they're able to put more focus into Collision now?
You think they were doing creative for Rampage?
Well, I meant they had to spend energy and time on it still.
Well, part of that report was that Tony Khan is more in the weeds than he's been the past couple of weeks. So I think that's probably a piece of it too. But I think you're right, because Joe, I've said time and time again, like Dynamite was unmissable when Dynamite was the only show that they had. And I'm not saying that's the only time it was ever really good or the only time it was ever great, but every week it felt like holy shit, I have to see this live. And when it expanded to Rampage and Collision, it felt like they were just spreading it too thin. So I think you're probably right in that, like if you're planning Dynamite and Rampage on the same day, and then you get to the Collision and you're like, oh, we already went through everything that's kind of noteworthy, let's just put this, and this on. That's probably a good call. I do think Tony Khan being back in the show getting better at the same time is probably not a coincidence. Not that he was ever absent from the show, but like he has a football team and a football team that he worries about, and the Jaguars didn't exactly make the playoffs. They weren't exactly killing it. So him being more involved, I think, is probably a healthy uptick. And the other thing that's kind of a corresponding report to this, not to be a podcast that's glazing them this entire week, but it's been a productive week for AEW. Warner's really happy with the direction of things. And the reason that's important is they're now giving them $3 million a week. So to that point, I know that Sean at Fightful was saying like they are not paid to treat Collision like a B show and Dynamite like an A show. That's not how that works. And on top of that, I think the thing that they're probably most excited about is the ratings have mostly stayed the same. And on Max, they've been constantly, since they debuted on Max, in the top 10 of all their sports things. So they are picking up an audience one way or the other because the ratings haven't really gone down. And they are seeing a good size audience on Max as well. So that's just really encouraging to see for all of wrestling, honestly. So some good stuff there. It wasn't the Pointer Sisters that was grabbing people on Max, which is encouraging to see. But I think you're right, Joe, in that those things all go together. And the show planning getting a little bit lighter, Tony Khan being back around is like the product is better, so morale is also better. Talent rotation is better, so morale is going to be better too. That was the thing I've noticed the past couple of weeks is we've got like 9 women on Collision alone this past week. Like that's really great to see. We saw the Vendetta finally freaking on Dynamite tonight. More focus on younger guys. Like we're seeing really good stuff. We got Nick Wayne versus Samoa Joe, all these things. So it all seems like, to Ryan's point of you can kind of just tell. It's like, well, yeah, because the signs are there because the crowds are hotter. The performers are happier to be performing. There's more people getting screen time, so they're happier. The ratings are up. Like there is an energy that you can kind of detect with that stuff. So between that and all the production changes, it feels like things are heading in a positive direction. But I'll throw it to you guys if there's anything you want to add before we break for commercial here real quick.
I literally just thought of something and forgot it instantly.
Well, you can't talk about it after the commercial break. You're not allowed.
I won't remember it. I'm very mad about that. I'm so
Fernando's in the chat too, as is Eric Freeze. Thank you guys for jumping in. But Joe, do you want to give Ryan any Jeopardy time here, or do you want to skip to commercial and ruin his life? It's up to you.
Ooh, that's a good one. Tough.
It is tough.
I don't know. The only thought I had was I'm glad to hear that we might get AEW pay-per-views on Prime. So
I actually didn't see that, so I'm glad you did.
But honestly, I kind of enjoyed it. They haven't been bad on YouTube. I bought them the last couple on YouTube because I just think it's an easier interface than Fight. Now, Fight has been offering some good deals when they have a couple close to each other, so I will take advantage of that. But overall, I think it's a better interface than Fight going back and forth. Like, it's so smooth. I think it's better. Honestly, there's a reason. I mean, YouTube probably does the most live stuff anymore. It's better than any of them for going back and forth. Like, you don't feel like you have all those issues. I do remember what I was going. Damn it! Did I forget it again?
You don't have time, Ryan.
No, I remembered. I got caught up on the YouTube thing. They made use. Now we see a clip of it tonight, but they're making better use of their extra properties, their socials, their YouTube shows and stuff. And they did the Death Rider story on there, and it probably explained more of the Death Riders than we've gotten an explanation for in like the last 6 months. And it was awesome. And they did show a clip of it tonight. And I'm okay if they're doing that because nowadays, most of your people, I know people say like not every fan who's watching wrestling is on Twitter. They're not, but enough of them are either on Twitter or YouTube that the majority of your fans, and especially in AEW, the majority of your fans are seeing that. So it's a nice thing to do to use those to help your stories because then you don't have to put it on your main show. You can put them, and if you do a quick clip highlight like they did tonight, anyone who didn't see it can go find it. Like, none of this is tough.
I agree with that, and I think the crossover between shows has also been a lot better. I forget what it was that they replayed on Collision that was a part of Dynamite, but it seems like they're taking certain segments and being like, okay, these are the ones that we're going to weave into the next episode. That goes along with these production changes. And Ryan, it's funny, so many people had said on Saturday, like, yeah, we had no Jericho and hardly any Death Riders on this show. It was awesome. And I was like, and the one Death Riders thing we had was the best thing we had in months, which is what we saw replayed today of what just felt kind of like a return to the mission statement of what the Death Riders are supposed to be. And Jon Moxley sounding like Moxley again. It was not any flowery bullshit language kind of. This was a little bit more straightforward of a Jon Moxley, and I enjoy it. But also First Lieutenant Colonel Photo, we thank you for your service in the chat. Kylie's over here. We love you, Kylie. Trans rights are human rights. We are a cool, safe place to hang out over here too. So but we are going to go to our commercial break. Felt like this past week for Dynamite was really productive. I think tonight's episode was also pretty darn good. I don't think it was the barn burner of last week, but I don't think it had to be either. I think there was some really appropriate follow-up because last week seemed like a big pivot week. But we're going to throw to commercial. Now I have all this pressure because when LT said that I had to leave Fightful and come here because Sean had a terrible ad segue. That's my hallmark. But this is just commercial. So I don't even know what to say except that to support other shows on the Shining Wizards Network is to support us. And to support us, once again, is to support women. Because I am a woman, I am on the show, and I am on the Shining Wizards Network. Same goes for buying t-shirts, man. I'm not going to give you the hard sell right now, but if you don't watch this commercial break, you don't support women, is what I will say. So, bringing back the bit, baby. Let's roll the tape.
All right, I'm going to do it in reverse order. First, I'm going to hit play on the sound.
Every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
If you like your music heavy, then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at Mark Order Pod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Your Duke and Rogue podcast. They're funny guys. That I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast with two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke Bags? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Your Duke and Rogue podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
My internet is just killing it today. Sorry, guys. But we made it back. We are rocking and rolling. We're going to get into this episode of Dynamite, but thank you so much for joining us. We're going to ask you to leave a thumbs up on our video as well. It helps people find us in the algorithm, and subscribe if you haven't already. Please help us out by leaving a 5-star review in audio form as well, so we can help our little engine that could over here move right along. The Shining Wizards also are closing in on 500 subscribers over there. If you could give them a subscription, if you're not already subbed, that would be awesome. But let's dig into this episode of Dynamite. Couple of things. We already kind of talked about our overall thoughts, so I don't want to exhaust anything. But I will say the production changes have been great. This episode didn't sound as loud. I don't know if it was the miking or the crowd, but the lighting continues to be really good. Having Taz back on commentary, we knew how good he was, but man, it's nice to have some stability on that desk again. That I think was long missed. Nice to have Kenny Omega opening up the show here, but we're going to talk about that in a second. anything else that you guys wanted to add on, or you were just ready to dig in?
I'm ready.
Let's dig.
Ryan was going to say something, but he forgot. But let's talk about this match with Will Ospreay. I was pretending that you had to
That
make
hurts
up
my sweet little feelings.
Kylie says it was C-wordsville. I can say Cuntsville. We're not monetized. What am I saying? I can say Cuntsville all I want.
That was great.
Let's dig in. So we have a really fun match. This is the second match between Brian Cage and Will Ospreay. I saw the first one live. I think we talked about this last week. I think it was with my cousin in Allentown. And same result here. Will Ospreay winning with the Styles Clash, which this guy has gotten more finishers over than just about anyone. It's really, really impressive. Like, just continues to be such an in-ring phenom. Really good stuff. And I remember on Wednesday when I was at Fight Club, Alex Pulowski had said, man, it's so funny because the Don Callis family kind of felt like it was just waffling there. And then all of a sudden, it's like Brian Cage and Lance Archer are the guys at the back of your faction. You have Takeshita, you have Kyle Fletcher. Like, this is now a real deal faction. They did have a vignette on Saturday that implies another member is coming. Because they said, who said there's only 5 people in this? And I like that there's a couple possibilities there. Most people are assuming it's Trent, that Trent is just healthy and ready to come back because he was joining this angle before that happened. Of note, Finlay from New Japan changed his bio to not say Bullet Club leader in it anymore. Could just be working because workers work, but him getting added to this with the power game that we saw that he has against Brody King is something that would certainly be interesting, but likely Trent returning, which would be great. He's excellent, and him returning from injury would be wonderful. But this match was very fun. Of course, after what you would expect happens here, you have Lance Archer hitting the ring. He made his presence known throughout this match. But Kenny comes in for the save, and then Fletcher and Takeshita, who could that guy just ooze I'm a fucking star any more than he does? My God. They come down and there's an attack. And I really felt torn because I feel like this worked. I think having Kenny Omega involved in the opening of the show is great because people are still so excited that he's here and healthy and ready to work. This is a trope that AEW isn't running into the ground right now, but because they ran it into the ground for months on end, I'm still sick of seeing it. They're not doing this nearly as much as they were, but they did it so much for so many months that I'm sick of seeing this because I just think baby faces should assume everybody in a heel faction is available to come out and swarm you. Like, I'm tired of faces looking stupid, but is what it is. The combination of matches in this is disgusting. Like the ceiling of Fletcher and Takeshita and Omega and Will alone is ridiculous. And then this match with Cage was great, and Lance Archer is great. So we'll see how that goes. But Joe, we'll start with you. What did you think of the way that this opened the show?
I thought it was a good call to open the show with this match. I mean, you got the crowd going a little hot. They're going to pop for Ospreay. I liked actually how the match gave Cage a lot of offense for a lot of time. He seems to kind of like a background player where they don't ever really do much with him as a singles competitor. That doesn't feel like. So him having a lot of offense against Will, I think gives him and Archer a lot of validity as far as their role in the family. And having Ospreay do the style clash on a guy that big just looks kind of gnarly.
Ridiculous.
I'm glad that Omega came down with a chair at least, so he wasn't necessarily overly dumb, even though the numbers game was against him. I don't know how he recovered from getting jumped that fast. He seemed very healthy coming out, running down the ring with a chair.
He did. That's a very good point.
And yeah, the only thing was that this was out of the 5, this was going to be the one time we saw the numbers advantage, but we saw it like 3 other times tonight. And that's one of my gripes.
We did see it a lot tonight, actually. They had been lightening up on it, but we did see it a couple times today. That's a good point. I agree with you there. I will say it was nice to start the show with live action again too. I thought last week's opening was like an all-timer, and I felt like Will wasted no time just diving into stuff, which I liked. And then we obviously had them jumping off of shit, so it didn't feel like we were opening with like a belabored talking segment. But I'm a big start the show with wrestling gal. I really like that. But Ryan, what did you think of how we opened the show? There was also a Takeshita promo that I missed, a vignette that played later. I was walking Daphne, so I didn't see it. But if there was anything either of you wanted to comment on there too, you're more than welcome.
And the vignette was okay. It wasn't anything special, just highlighting that Takeshita rules. The match, when Brian Cage has the right opponent, he can be really fun to watch. My biggest knock on him for years was I just never got into the characters he was playing. Like, I just could not buy into whatever. He works with the Callis family as like him and Archer as the heaters. And again, he can go out and have amazing matches with these guys, especially the smaller guys, because he can do things he shouldn't be able to do at his size. I'm going to say this. I'm going to withhold most of my comments about the beatdown because I have a bigger issue with later ones, and say I agree with Joe. At least Kenny came with the chair, that he did to be smart, because that, like, I can accept Kenny running down knowing he was probably going to lose the fight anyway because they just don't have the numbers, but still risking it, as long as he did it intelligently, which is bring some kind of weapon to even the odds.
That's fair. That's a very fair point. And you're right. It was less about that than like just trying to keep Will from eating all of the damage. So a better one than some of the ones that we saw later tonight, which we will get into. But as someone who's such an in-ring gal, I got to tell you, this might be my favorite thing on the show that we got later here with Renee trying to get an interview with Swerve. The amount of intrigue they packed into this one very small segment, I was pretty blown away by. She's trying to get an interview with Swerve. Hangman, with tenacity, goes up to Swerve's locker room, doesn't find him, and says to Renee, like, you're not going to find him in there. And then Adam Page keeps looking for Swerve, which is so interesting to me, considering this is the first person he's looking for on what feels like a redemption arc. And he bumps into MJF. And then MJF, unfortunately, does the most accurate impression of what it's like to have ADD in the world. Renee is like, well, love this from Renee, too. This is why she's, like, the best at this. She's like, okay, well, Adam Page isn't here, but MJF's here. He's one of the top guys on the show. Let me try and get an interview with him. If you're somewhat in that situation and people just walk off, you're probably going to do exactly what Renee did. I love this. But we have her running into MJF, who gives this promo about what's going on with Jeff Jarrett tonight. And huge pop for me. He mentions the Claudio Castagnoli, he's a human horse interview that Kevin Owens gave. I bring up that clip all the time because Kevin Owens has the best shoot interviews ever. And him talking about Low Ki. If you haven't seen it, which if you're watching this, you've probably seen it on my timeline, but it's about Low Ki not wanting to do business. And Kevin Owens goes, if you don't want to lose to me, fine. You don't want to lose to Generico, that's one thing. But Claudio, who was the champion for like a year at that point, he's a horse. He's a human horse. It pops me to no end. MJF saying he's half human, half horse. He's going to kick Jeff Jarrett's ass in this. I liked this from MJF, and I'm actually really impressed by a couple of things. It feels like the handwriting is on the wall for Adam Page and MJF to... Obviously, they're crossing paths for the first time, basically since AEW started, right? In the first ever Dynamite ring battle royal thing. That was like the last time that these guys crossed paths. But this idea of Hangman accidentally retiring Christopher Daniels and feeling guilty about it, and MJF maybe on his way to extremely intentionally retire Jeff Jarrett, as the kickoff to Hangman's redemption arc is some nasty cool stuff. And I'm impressed that they've managed to keep these top stars away from each other for the most part. Like MJF and Adam Page haven't really crossed paths. MJF and Swerve only crossed paths the one time on screen. So they've done a good job considering how long MJF's title reign was of keeping these guys away from it. And it means there's a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to these feuds. So I love what they set up here. I think that could be a very compelling story and a really valuable way to utilize Christopher Daniels' retirement. I think that's awesome. But there was some really, really good stuff in this. We'll throw to Ryan first on this. Did you love this as much as I did? Because I thought the implications of what they set up was the potential for something really exciting because of the implications.
Why did you have to say implications? Because now all I can think of is Always Sunny.
But she's not going to say no to this great creative because of the
implication. You know, it makes sense. I'm not going to do anything, but I could, and that's the implication. So I love the idea that most of the time when someone retires someone, they do it for. There either is just one good feel-good moment. It's a babyface retiring another babyface or something like that, or they put heat on the guy who retires him. And in this case, they're trying to use a retirement to re-babyface Hangman, but not like because he feels bad about what he did. And I think that is genius. And to go looking for Swerve, and you don't know what he's going to say to him. You don't know, but there's some implication there that he's going to be like, maybe we went too far. Maybe we both crossed lines we shouldn't have crossed, which is what you hope. If he doesn't, I'll still laugh and cackle and be happy, but it'd be better if he did.
Man, there's something really compelling about the idea of them realizing they're not so different, and all of the seeds that Swerve planted with the Hurt Business that didn't really pay off. You get a tag run out of Hangman and Swerve after all this. Dethroning the Hurt Business, I ain't mad about that. That sounds like a whole bunch of fun. But with you on everything you said there. And what I like about it is, famously, I don't follow or play video games, right? But the one game that I got into was Red Dead Redemption 2, watching playthroughs of it, to the most ridiculous rabbit hole that you could go down. I'm still getting YouTube recommendations off of it today. That was a year ago. And what I love is this feels Arthur Morgan-y. This feels like this is Hangman. You know, he beat Swerve at All Out, and then he had this reaction of like, I'm not satisfied. And then he was like, I went to get the world title. I didn't win it. Like, it feels like Hangman's just plugging himself into all these situations and not being satisfied. And he's realizing, maybe I do have to be a good guy again. Like, he doesn't have tuberculosis, but like in Arthur Morgan, it's kind of like, maybe I need to make things right before I can make any progress in my life. And it's just the most, I said Arthur Morgan because that's the easiest pop culture grab, but like that is the most cowboy fucking every Western ever. Like that is the most cowboy arc for anyone to have, is this redemption arc, because it's not babyface, right? It's a guy acknowledging all the wrongs he's made. So I kind of dig that. But either one of you, if you have anything else you want to jump in with.
I'm really stopping myself from going very hard on the Red Dead Redemption 2 lore, because I can just really put us down a rabbit hole on this one.
Go for it. Do it.
Well, I mean, so is Christopher Daniel, what was it? Was it Downs Farm? Was it, what was the money he took from the dad that died of tuberculosis, that probably gave him tuberculosis, that then he gave back to the mom and the son? Is that who Christopher Danielson is? Is he the mom and the son? Is MJF Micah? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the role we're playing here?
MJF Micah Bell. Oh, it's a good question. I don't know which one of them has a plan, but that would be Dutch.
No, that's MVP.
MVP is Dutch is great.
Sheldon, I have a plan.
I got a plan.
I can't do Dutch's voice. I love it, but it's not quite country. It's like
it's so specific. It's so bizarre.
Okay, you have new content ideas for your YouTube channel. You can plug in AEW wrestlers into Red Dead Redemption.
Perfect. Okay, who would be Sadie? That's the real question. Ugh, she's the best. Bryan Danielson is adjacent to this storyline, but he would have to be Hosea because he died uncharacteristically soon. I'm not okay with
I'm
it.
trying to think who the hell Sadie is.
We'll take suggestions in the chat.
Also, Joe, Jesus, I am struggling to say words that I want to say. Joe, and then I went the Muppets. I want her to do AEW Muppets comparison. She just won't do it for me. She won't live.
It's a lot of
Realize
pressure.
my legacy. My legacy. Realize it.
It's a lot of pressure, to be honest. Any other thoughts on this backstage segment, Red Dead Redemption related or otherwise?
Well, wait, Jesse, you didn't like Red Dead Redemption 1? The John game? Because I can't respect that.
I feel like most people I've talked to about it, because again, I've cared about one video game in my life, and it's RDR2, have said like they like Red Dead Redemption 1, but Red Dead Redemption 2 was like
took everything that Red Dead Redemption 1 did, which was an amazing game, and just made it better.
It's a prequel. Everyone has just said that Arthur's more interesting than John, basically, is what I've heard.
Yeah. John didn't have the moral issues that you were coming with Arthur. Like, John had a family by that point. His story was kind of told. I also want to point, Dutch fictional history is he's from somewhere outside Philadelphia. I see what's going on with that. I don't respect.
Jesse goes, "Oh no, Ryan doesn't respect me."
Jesse, of the three of us on this show, I'm the only one who understands video games. You should trust my opinion, because Joe might, but I don't think he plays them anymore.
You're even making wild assumptions. Wow.
You don't talk about him. The last time I saw, the only video game thing I ever saw of you was Nintendo. Say it again?
I said I don't have to talk about it. I can be about it.
You're not about it.
He's about that video game life, bro.
The irony being that I am currently playing Red Dead Redemption 2.
Hell yeah. Any other thoughts on this backstage? Or do you want to move on?
We can move on, because I will go down rabbit holes that I just can't.
You can't.
Again, Dutch from somewhere outside of Philly. Just saying.
I didn't know that about MVP. That's interesting. We got a recap of Big Bill and Hobbs. We talked about that a little bit more. Just Hobbs not being cleared because of unhealed stitches. There's nothing too big, but that can be very problematic if they bust open and are not healed. Then you're talking out for a while. So we don't want to do that. But I liked what we got here. We kind of already talked about what this feud could look like, and I think we're all on the same page. So that's a fun title adjacent program. Any thoughts on what would happen if the ROH title was in the picture here? Do you guys think that Hobbs being an ROH champion could be a fun next move for this?
I like that. I don't want any part of the learning tree involved with ROH ever again. Like,
I mean, if it's the good parts, that would be fun.
If Big Bill, if they do with their COD season with him separating from Jericho with all his side eye tonight that he was giving him as Jericho was running him down, talking about how he didn't get the job done, then yes, I can get on board with that if he's not a member of the learning tree.
Yeah, I think the breakup of the learning tree being the catalyst to like it splintering being the catalyst for either Brian Keith or Big Bill title reign would be fun. And then Hobbs challenging for it or ultimately beating Jericho for it could be some good stuff. Any thoughts on that, Ryan?
I'm with Joe on this one. I don't think I like the Hobbs Big Bill stuff. I enjoy the New York Minute. To be honest with you, I do find that funny, but that's the extent of I kind of want to see that. I don't like the rest of the story. So can we just like cordon off certain sections that I can enjoy separately and not intermingle them all?
I agree. Tonight was the only New York Minute that I felt like didn't really hit as hard, but it served a purpose. So like I didn't need to be laughing for the minute and a half because what it was trying to do was highlight the tension between Bill and Jericho. So I understand where you're at. I understand where you're at. So Jericho can go on his boat
I
And
enjoy Chad calling out the fact that New York's minute is longer than the minute.
this is why we need Taz around.
Yeah.
It's for
It's
things
like
like
a Royal Rumble, 90
90
seconds.
seconds.
It's not real.
I agree. Well, let's move on because why the fuck does Claudio Castagnoli need help beating bad mustache dye job Jeff Jarrett? I mean, what is happening with the caterpillar on his face? And why on earth did Jon Moxley have to interfere with this match and hit the paradigm shift so that Claudio could hit the neutralizer for the win? MJF appropriately comes out afterward, attacks Jarrett, says he respects his elders, so he's not going to say that he was right. This is so fucking stupid. My complaint last week was, how on earth am I supposed to buy that Claudio Castagnoli, of all the wrestlers in AEW, is going to have a problem with Jeff Jarrett? Like, not just like a strong modern day dude. I mean, top 3 to 5 guys I don't think would have a problem with Jeff Jarrett. It's like Brody King, Claudio Castagnoli. Like they're on there. There are 2 of them on there for sure. So I hated that this went on this long. I hate that it took interference. If there wasn't a women's main event tonight, I would be complaining about that more. But I don't understand why MJF didn't just, I guess because they already had so many fucking beatdowns and interferences, but there was interference anyway. Why didn't MJF just cost Jeff Jarrett? That was dumb. Anyway, I hated every second of this. I hate that it got to this point. I think it's stupid. I appreciate that they pivoted away from what they were doing with Jeff Jarrett and MJF. Like, this is definitely the better direction, but the idea that I'm supposed to believe that Claudio would have trouble with Jeff Jarrett and needs Moxley's help to put him away is nauseating. I think Wheeler Yuta's injured. Otherwise, he probably would have been in the spot. But, Joe, I wanted to puke.
It was quite the contrast having this match follow the first match.
Yeah.
Felt like I went back to like 1990s wrestling in this match with Jarrett and his style.
And the Outrunners weren't even there.
I get the whole idea of Claudio like not having a problem with Jarrett, but only having a problem with the fact that he's trying to come after John. So he tried to, defend the head of the group. I get that part. It wasn't realistic though for him to win unless something there had been some kind of interference that would have helped Jarrett win.
Sure, like you could have done the thing where MJF interferes on behalf of Jarrett because he thinks he's going to be easy bones to pick if he wins the title, right? Like that would have been an okay way to go about it, but
I do like MJF, during this Jarrett feud, kind of rocking the old Double J slapnut glasses, the little rose-colored glasses that Jarrett used to wear.
It is pretty great. He's had them on the past couple weeks, and that has been one of the more enjoyable things about this feud. It does feel like they're just trying to clean up the bad stuff that they started. Like it feels like they just are trying to. They pivoted the story, obviously, right? So it feels like they're trying to figure out how to get out of this, but this was not the way, in my opinion. Ryan, SULLY. What are your thoughts on this?
So, once again, I am going to refrain from commenting on certain aspects of the match because I, once again, have further comments on a later match that I have issues with, which is the same issue. So I'll just save them all for one big rant. The match was slow. I think Jarrett really showed signs of like age in this one. Not to say he's been whatever, but like
he looks worse in this than he has, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was the style they chose to wrestle or what they tried to do, but like you could, and I say this as someone who doesn't like, how I watch. I don't watch for like really the technical side of it, but you could see Claudio's. Yeah, no, not at all. Like I can lose myself in stuff. Like I can easily be like so long, and I got pulled out because I could see Claudio slowing himself down. Like there were visible runs where Claudio's like having to like half step, and I'm like, that looked too awkward.
So he wrestled a miniature horse and not a real horse.
Yeah, he had to wrestle like a Shetland pony today, unfortunately. Little Sebastian from Parks and Rec. He was better than 10,000 candles in the wind.
Oh God, 10,000 candles. That might be. I want it to be like Elton John's candles.
Little Sebastian.
But I will say I didn't mind the MJF thing at the end because I thought it was such a dick move.
I like that part too. I like that a lot from Max.
Like to come out and be like, "See, told you," and I'm such a good guy. I'm not gonna hurt you.
I respect my elders. Be great.
Yeah, like if in the story of it, all Jeff Jarrett would want to do in that moment is kill him, and he can't. So like, I think that's a good that's a good moment. Again, I'm gotta hold back most of my thoughts on this. I don't have a lot to say about the match. I thought the match, the one compliment I'll give to the match is, for the most part, and that there's a big asterisk right there, they made it so that Claudio was the dominant wrestler, that he was the one in control.
Yeah, it went on too long. Shout out to the chat filling up here with Ricardo and Meet Normus and Matthew Hooks. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Please do leave a thumbs up. I appreciate that Jesse Ozog said there are 23 people watching and only 4 thumbs up. What the fuck, people? Get to pressing because he does more to promote the show than Ryan. So
you're on it too.
I gave the give us a thumbs up after the commercial break. I was here for it. But because we do have some new people here, we do remind you, if you could leave a thumbs up, it'd be great. And to subscribe if you haven't already. Wow, 12 thumbs ups now. Jesse Ozog gets shit done is what I'm learning. But Joe, was this your match of the year?
A close second.
Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd,
right.
Razor thin. This, I got you.
If it would have been taking place in Tokyo Dome, it would have put it over the top.
Of course, yeah.
But it was a match. It was
that. It was definitely that. It does feel like they've made some really positive changes, but they still have to like clean this up. Like they're still sweeping up some of the bad shit. But we'll move on here. We get Renee Paquette backstage, looking great with Ricochet. She lets him know that if Swerve interferes in the upcoming match, he will forfeit his match with Ricochet next week, which I think is a justification for things that should be used more frequently. Like that just makes sense. You already have a match with this guy, so you don't get to fuck with him until then. Is something that feels very fair to me. So I just appreciated that aspect of it. And then we get this really fun match with Ricochet and AR Fox. I love that AR Fox has a history with both of these guys, so they've used him as a linchpin in this. And I'm just glad to see him on TV. He's really good. Like, he's smooth like butter in there. I will say one thing about Ricochet. It's so funny. So recently I've been helping with social media at Fightful, which means I have access to our Twitter account. And the amount of people that are getting worked by Ricochet being a nerd is hilarious. Like, there are so many people that are like, LOL, no Riz. He looks like a cornball, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, that's the point of the character, you nerds. But he did that little nod to The Rock today. And that really threw some people for a loop, which was very, very fun. But that match was super fun. And Ricochet goes after AR Fox with the scissors, but Swerve comes out to make the save then. That is good. Like, I think that was a clean way to go about business. Match was really fun. I wish they had shaved off a couple minutes from the previous match and added it to this, because this felt like it cooked. Like, this was really getting really good. But we'll go to Joe first on this. What did you think of the match and the post match here? And are you excited for the blow off between Ricochet and Swerve? Because I'm really excited for this. I think this is going to be a blast.
Yeah, I think they really built that up really well and caught it up a notch with the violence part of it. So the blow-off match would be great. The match itself tonight with AR Fox, I thought was good. Like you said, having that connection to both both wrestlers, and AR Fox kind of having a somewhat similar style, obviously, to Swerve, I think helps Ricochet ahead of that match. I like kind of the closing end of the match. There's a lot of good back and forth between the two of them. And I just like how Ricochet's heel character, how he kind of weaves it in with his wrestling style, and how he adds little elements of heel into it beyond what he usually does. And I guess after the match with him and his scissors, heel Swerve would have still stomped on AR Fox to get to Ricochet. And the fact that he's having, Nana be a weak link when he just kidnapped, or when a friend like AR Fox gets threatened. I don't love that being the weakness for Swerve after we've seen what Swerve is a cold-hearted killer.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes into the whole over-the-top, naive babyface character again. But I'm hoping that he can kick it up a notch in their blow-off match and get really, really gruesome.
That's kind of how I interpreted it, is this is not Ricochet's wheelhouse, but he's the one with the fucking scissors trying to stab people in the head. And I think Swerve is gonna be opportunistic about picking his time and his place. So I think you're right. And I feel like sometimes when you're building to a match like that, less is more, because you got to save some of the violence for in the actual match. And I think it's kind of a good contrast to let Swerve shine as the corny heel who's great in the ring. And you're right, he's adapted his moveset so beautifully to this heel character. And Swerve just kind of waiting to bring the ultra violence lets Ricochet pop out a little bit more, I think, as being a little bit more of a weirdo with scissors, which we were been told not to run with from a very, very young age. But Ryan, did you like this match with AR Fox and Ricochet as much as I did? I thought this was a ton of fun.
The match was awesome. I think AR Fox has now had 2 really good matches in recent weeks, of course, against people he's familiar with, but hopefully he can kind of rebound himself from his stupid decision making around going to London. But because he does do very good, he does have very good matches and do some really cool things in the ring. I love the Ricochet character, the nerdy heel, but who thinks he's cool. That is such it's actually a deeper character than a lot of times you see in wrestling, where you think that usually it's surface level, and here you have a guy, it's yes, he's a heel and he's vicious and he's using scissors to maybe potentially kill someone, but he's a nerd, but he thinks he's cool. That is layers to a character, and he keeps adding to him by his stupid costumes and all the stuff he wears. I love it. I will say, to Joe's point, I'm glad they had him hold the scissors to AR Fox, because if there were no scissors, Swerve absolutely should have stomped AR Fox to get to Ricochet. The scissors, I could at least say, in my mind, Swerve is thinking, if I do this stomp, I may actually kill a man, and do I want to go to jail?
That's fair.
That is the only thought I have. I also want to point out 2 things. I'll point out the way Swerve beat Ricochet before he got his hands on AR Fox. I loved it. Swerve has this way of delivering a beating where it feels very angry and feels very real. Not every wrestler can do it. Some wrestlers' beatdowns just feel like every other beatdown, and then some guys actually make you feel the emotion of the moment. They just sell it that much better, where you're like, oh yeah, this guy's pissed. So I want to give him credit. But then, so as Ricochet is marching back up to the locker room, and Swerve is just staring daggers at him, Nana in the background with an evil look. Oh my God.
Had me in stitches that Nana found the camera and danced, but you're right, with this menacing look on his face. I was absolutely howling.
It was amazing.
We had somebody in the chat saying they're considering to the Atlanta show. I heard it's going to be a fun one. 4.5 hours is a long drive for a show, but I've heard good things about that Atlanta show. They're on a good tear with these, but that one should have some fun juice behind it. But let's move on. We do get this recap that of what played on Collision with Moxley and the Death Riders. One of the more effective segments for this story, too. I still don't love some of the stuff we get from them on the show, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But, like, I appreciated that we had this mission statement. I appreciated that we acknowledged that the title hasn't been around because it's felt like there was no payoff. John Moxley saying, none of you understand the title. You don't understand the importance of the title, the relevance of it, the weight of it. I am the title because I'm the champion. Like, you don't need this piece of metal and leather to, like, be out here. Once you respect the title, once you respect me, maybe then you can see the title again. But he says he wants to make the locker room 1,000 John Moxleys. He wants to backstock the locker room with guys like John Moxley for the betterment of the company in the future. It's like the best Death Rider segment in a long time. It felt like they got back to the roots of who they were. It was nice to have Renee in the mix for it because for obvious reasons, like it felt like they were inorganically keeping them apart for a bit, but her interviewing him for this segment where it just felt like they were getting back to the roots of what they originally set out to do, I thought was actually one of the more effective things. It was pretty short and sweet as well. Wasn't mad about that. Ryan, we'll start with you. Did you like, this is the first thing I've liked from the Death Rider Riders, I feel like, in months.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. They used this, so they put this out on online first. And I love that they did that, but it's just such a good promo. Finally, like his whole line about where the belt was, like, because it didn't make sense why he was covering it up. Like, give me something. So to be like, why do you need to see it? I'm the champ. I am the belt. Like, there's actually, like, at least I understand it. Just give me anything to understand your motivations. That's all I ask. And they've done a good job of that. This promo did a good job of that. If they can keep delivering this and then fix what I'm going to talk about later, they really could turn the story around.
I agree, Joe. We did talk about this a little bit at the beginning, but since you didn't see it on Collision too, anything you want to add to this?
I watched it on Collision. I saw it.
Oh, you did see it? Okay.
Yeah, and then I watched the video on YouTube again to make sure I didn't miss anything. But this is what I wanted back in December. I mean, I know they kind of attacked Brian in November. Like, this could have been a month later instead of 2.5 months later. This answers a lot of questions I think that we've had as far as them kind of losing their way, not having a little direction. This hopefully kind of refocuses and recenters them again. And kind of like you talked about earlier with the MJF stuff, like it's kind of a steering of the story a little bit more, and hopefully course correcting a little bit, because they desperately need to find some direction with their storyline, and because I don't feel like it's going anywhere. At least we have a map. Now just have to go somewhere on the map.
That is true. Going somewhere on the map is crucial, though. It is crucial. But let's get into the thing that we've kind of been dancing around for a lot of the night here. We have Jay White beating Wheeler Yuta. I do appreciate that since Jay White has returned, he has been in the title picture or around top guys entirely. He came back against Hangman. He had title shots. He's still fighting through the Death Riders, who are the top act on the show. So I can say I at least appreciate that. But we have Moxley and Claudio coming out to attack Jay White. Cope, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler come out to make the shave. FTR challenges the Death Riders to a Mid-South street fight on Saturday for Collision. I appreciated that Dax was like, hey, you know what I don't fucking tolerate around here? You guys going after old men that I looked up to. Like, that at least paid off a little bit there, but I really like Jay White. I really like Wheeler Yuta. I was checked out before this match happened because I knew what was going to happen. So that kind of shit is a bummer. Joe, we'll start with you. What did you think? It seems like this is the thing that everyone on the is on the same page about as like we're back to Death Rider stuff not working.
It's too bad after that, the highlight package of that interview and how it gave people a glimpse of, oh, the Death Riders have a renewed focus, and no, we went back to the numbers and the numbers game coming back to haunt us again. It's just, it does take away from a really good match with Yuta and White, because I thought they're similar size, similar styles. They had a good little story with working on Jay's knee. I'm glad they had Jay win the match, because to keep him somewhat in that title picture conversation. But yeah, it's just way too many interferences or beatdowns after the match.
Agreed. The chat is calling for it, and I was planning on asking, but the banks. Wheeler Yuta's banks, the elephant in the room. Yay, nay, where do we stand on the bangs? Do we want more of the bangs? Do we want less of the bangs? Where are you at with the hairstyle, most importantly? And
well, Ryan's our hair aficionado, so I want to hear Ryan's opinion on the hair.
It's true, actually.
I mean, when it comes to bangs, no one knows more about bangs than Ryan.
You're muted.
You let me down, Ryan. You let me down. Son of a bitch.
I didn't realize I tapped my own mic. I don't know why I became the hair aficionado. I don't think that's something, but I love it. Like I said, I want his beard and his hair to just connect and just form a giant hair face shield.
Yeah.
And you just asked why you're the hair aficionado. I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty right there. Man, did you think FTR and Cope were, I know this is where you wanted to rant, but I thought FTR and Cope were going to win the trios titles. I thought they were going to come back, take the trios titles off of these people that never defend them, and we would get to have trios titles again. But you've been saving up all night for what we can only affectionately call a Rye rant. So I will let you Rye rant away. You can even, do you want to break out the fun scale for this?
Yeah, I'll bring out the fun scale for this.
Okay. Wow. A rare Ryan, no fun. He didn't pee his pants at all.
That wasn't made for you, Ryan. What are you doing?
That's true. That was technically the Kate scale.
Well, it got stolen, and I'm using the Kate scale because here's the thing. I can live with what happened at the first match with the Callis family and Ospreay, because that they allowed the match to go, and then they get to the ending and the beatdown after, but at least they allowed the match to go. You had your match. You had 2 Death Riders matches, and neither one, Claudio Castagnoli needed all the help in the world to beat Jeff Jarrett. What?
Yeah.
And so you refuse to give us a clean ending there. Like, it was just this shit finish. Then you have your other match, and you don't even give us an ending. You have a shit finish. And like you said, we all saw it coming a mile away.
Yeah. I'm checked out before these matches even begin, and that sucks because they're both really great wrestlers. So it blows.
It's one thing when I watch a match, and I'm like, I know who's going to win this. I know how this is going to end. But either the match is really good, or the story has been really good. So I'm okay to watch to the conclusion of a very good story. It's like, we'll go superhero movies. I always know the hero is going to win. I don't care if you tell me a good story before that. So that doesn't bother me. But you don't get a good match out of these, because halfway through, it just becomes people running in and beating someone up. And the story sucks because you don't get a conclusion, and you'll never be able to get a conclusion. And it's just stupid. Like, I know my rants aren't as, but for me to even be like, I don't want to watch this is pretty rare for me. And I don't want to watch this. Like, I legitimately, if this was something I had recorded, I might have actually skipped through this match entirely, because I know what's going to happen before it ever starts. It's not fun. It's not good. You don't get a good match out of it. And the story sucks because it's the same story they've been telling for weeks.
There's a reason Roman Reigns was around so infrequently by the time that this had jumped the shark. Like this type of booking jumps the shark. And it's because if you put it on, like the reason to me that they're so handcuffed with this is for this angle to work, you have to have a company takeover. But when you're taking over the company with the same shit on multiple matches in a show, it's not creative. It doesn't work. It's not satisfying. It's predictable. So it's like you can't 4 months after this angle begins suddenly start to take over the show and affect everything on it. Like that can't work that way. And to your point, Ryan, for you to, I mean, I can count on one hand the times that you've crossed into my scale of something being a 0. Absolute trash fire.
And again, I'm not rating this as someone who tries to be like, oh, this wrestling. It has nothing to do with the wrestling. This is purely entertainment. I'm not going to watch a show that I know that's going to give me the same exact scene every week, and it's not a good scene. It's not one that people are like, oh, this is funny. Like this is like you're giving me the worst scene you have every week. Why am I going to watch that? Why is this entertaining me? And I'm excited to watch Yuta versus Switchblade, and I know I'm excited in theory to watch those two wrestle. And before the match even starts, like I'm no longer excited because they're not going to have a good match because they're not going to finish it. And the biggest part of a match is the finish. That's what makes it a good match.
I agree. And like, to your point too there, like I would have been so excited for Wheeler and Jay White if they weren't in this angle. I would have been so excited for this match because I am a big fan of both of their work. But to, like you had said, how this is gonna cook. So had it been free of this angle, I would have liked it. It's the angle that killed the fun in this, not the wrestling, as you said.
You know Ryan, hold on. I just want to point. Sorry, Jay won, but like, you're right. That's me not being fair. Jay won, but like, it wasn't. You're just waiting for the whatever at the end. I guess is
the
what
beat
I'm saying.
Down
like,
bullshit or whatever. Yeah,
I guess that's. I'm not like a clean ending when you don't know what's going to happen after is fun. When you don't know what's going to happen. When you know what's going to happen, it's like, I'm no longer focused on the match. I'm just waiting for this thing I hate to happen.
And it's like Jay White has the match with Moxley in Australia, right? We know it. So like, of course he's going to be able to beat his henchman. Like both the predictability of both the finish and the booking.
Plus, what does it say that I actually forgot Jay White won? Like, what does that tell you about the match that I forget who won because I hated what went on so much?
Death Riders. Let's cross our fingers that this ends sooner than later, or pivot sooner than later. But let's talk about something Ryan's excited to talk about because the Guns are on their way back.
Joe, did you give your opinion on it?
Yeah, you didn't listen to me. I clearly said Jay White won. It was the right decision, but
I am so mad about this section, this whole segment that I literally
threw it to you with a hair segue. How dare you not remember?
I didn't know. No, see, this is what I heard. I heard we were talking. I heard Joe begin to say something, and I heard we need to address bangs. So I didn't know he actually gave his send on the match. I thought we went right into hair.
I mean, could you blame us?
No, I got distracted by hair.
I've never accidentally skipped someone giving their opinion on the show in my life. I can't believe you.
I kind of was just hoping that happened again so I could make fun of you for it.
The Guns are coming back. Be excited. Go.
Actually, I liked the vignette where they're kind of like, we had a lot of fun. We had a good time. I like that they included Ass Boys because it was such an important part of their run. And I really think they were something by the end. Like they had really become fun characters. Especially when Juice is around, they're a lot of fun. But for a tag division that could just use, I don't think they're title contenders, at least not right now. But for a tag division that could just use that other team with a name that might do something, they'll be very helpful.
Give me the Guns versus MXM tomorrow. Please.
Yes.
Please give me the Guns versus MXM tomorrow. This was a well done vignette. They were just kind of looking back on clips from their careers. More was just like, hey, guess what? They're on their way back. I will say the tag division's picking up. You got the Hounds of Hell. You got Murder Machines. You've got the Hurt Syndicate as the tag champions, which I think everyone feels bad for Private Party, but good stuff. Like it was the right call to make, I think. Because you got to put gold on that team sooner than later. So exciting stuff there. Are you excited for the Guns to come back into the picture? I'm the same way of like, let's keep them title adjacent for a while, but I'm glad they're on their way back. That works.
Yeah, I think they can fill a void with, especially with the Acclaim breaking up. That helps bring in another kind of at that level of a tag team, kind of the non-title picture tag team, but someone in the middle. So that's good. I'm a little. I feel like the Bang Bang Gang just kind of like fizzled out, and we didn't really get good closure on it, unless I missed something.
No, you're right. I'm just okay with that because it felt like it was holding Jay White back so much that I'm okay with it. But you're right in that it's creatively unresolved. But we'll see. Maybe they'll do that now that they're on their way back. Maybe we'll find something out there. But we get a Mariah May interview with Renee Paquette, which I'm glad they're letting her have more speaking time, and I'm glad it's less about like she's coming across as a more serious threat at this point in her title reign. She's just kind of mocking everything that Toni Storm has done. She says, you don't need to pretend to be anybody else when you're as good as I am. That's not how that works. And she's going to be the AEW Women's Champion forever. So this was good. Like she's just been a little bit more vicious of late, and I've appreciated that side of her. I'll throw it up to the floor. Any of you guys want to jump in?
Right.
I think that this was great. Like you said, it's a lot more serious. But I do like that she hit her points to let you know that she is afraid of Toni Storm. She's serious and she seems like a threat, but by mentioning her and saying the things she said, it becomes very obvious she's afraid. Mix that with her look that she gave on Saturday, which was brilliant because she wasn't taking her seriously until she heard Timeless, and then suddenly she's very serious. I mean, she's doing fantastic work. And yeah, I like everything that she's doing. And I'm glad I love this story, but I am glad they're doing it now because I do think like in some weird ways, this was an impediment to her run because everybody was just waiting for the rebound of this.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the segment that we got on Collision was an all-timer. So I'm excited that even though it's predictable, it was extremely well done. And I'm glad.
Right time. I guess because we're still like about almost a month, 3 weeks out until Grand Slam. But was it too soon, or was it the right time to do the Timeless reveal?
It's so funny because I was talking about this with Alex Pulowski, and he's so in tune with like story development beats, and it was kind of like it was either too soon or too late. Like Mariah May turned right after she got her title shot from Toni, and she stabbed her in the head with the heel, right? So Timeless Toni Storm, to mirror that, should have either, most people are saying, should have either turned Timeless right after she won that, or come out at Grand Slam as Timeless Toni Storm. 1, for the live reaction, because it would have been so great, or 2, for the character motivation of Mariah May is going to prepare for this rookie the entire time, and all of the sudden, like, I think Mariah May being scared shitless in that moment could have been really fun. My guess is their intention is to try and establish this as like a tentpole story going into Grand Slam. But it does feel like either mirror what Mariah May did exactly, because she was definitely pretending to be herself and Mariah May at points. Like, she made that pretty clear on Collision when she nestled up into her bosom and basically verbatim said all the things that Mariah May said to her in her first promo, right? So mirror it that way right after she wins the Casino Gauntlet, or I think doing it at Grand Slam would have been an appropriate choice too. It doesn't take things... I think those timings would have been better. I'm still very excited about it. And I felt like the execution of what was done was pretty brilliant. But some good stuff. Any thoughts on this live promo from Miss Mariah, Joe?
No, I think Ryan hit it on the head as far as her kind of being vocal, but also, being overly vocal to not show her weakness. So
she's done some really fun work with that, like when Megan Bain came out in the Casino Gauntlet, and she was is she even eligible? Yeah, she was so scared shitless of Megan Bain, who it sounds like is wrestling on Collision, so that's exciting. That's exciting to hear. But we do close out the show with some more women's wrestling, and nice to see the Vendetta around, following up on the fallout from what happened with Collision. Harley Cameron costing Deonna Purrazzo a title shot at Mercedes. They get a really quick moment right here to say, easily could have been me in this position, but Harley Cameron, scoundrel, coming after me, taking things away. So hoping that is on the Grand Slam card. I'm sure it will be for Miss Harley. But then closing out the show, we have Mercedes, no surprise there, retaining against Yuka Sakazaki. So really good parts of the match. Some parts of the match that looked like Yuka hadn't had TV reps in a little bit, and that's okay. Inevitable outcome, but it's nice to see Mercedes continue kind of on the path she's been on. She was never going to lose on a TV title defense. I think we all knew that, but this was fun. It was a women's main event. I'll take it. Good stuff here. Joe, we'll go to you, and then we'll close out with Ryan.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be a main event, so that was nice to see. Also, Yuka hasn't had a lot of TV reps, like you said, lately, but showcasing her in a main event like this only further helps her as well. I like when Mercedes wrestles a lot of the Japanese talents. I think that bodes well for her style. And
she sells so damn well that when you fight Joshi gals, like it works out well. It works out well.
It was one of the rare times when Mercedes had the size advantage, so she got to work more power and power bombs and things like that. So that's kind of different from her usual style that I see from her. And last, I guess she was wearing her Capital Collision gear tonight. So I'm like, oh, that was familiar.
Yeah, pretty cool to see. Pretty cool to see that back in action. The chat also saying that it looked like the ropes were a little loose. I think that's what it was, because Yuka had some trouble getting up them, and she doesn't normally have issues with a spot like that. But Mercedes was just she looked like a Mortal Kombat character selling there as Yuka had to get back up into the corner. But I think, because Tim McFowell actually saying it perfectly there, like a lot of Yuka's moveset is top rope dependent. So I think some of those more awkward moments was a little bit trickier for that. But Ryan, what did you think of getting to see Deonna and Taya around? That was refreshing to see them on a Dynamite. The talent rotation picking up both in the women's division and the men's divisions here. And our main event, Mercedes.
Yes, make Deonna a focus, please, God. She's too talented to not be, so it just seems like a waste of time. I think a feud with Harley Cameron's actually amazing, because you have Taya and Harley to play off each other, which I think is a great. Those two could play off each other really well, and then Deonna could be the serious wrestler who kicks her ass. So I love that, and I'm glad she's getting focus again, because she deserves it. The match was a lot of fun. It did look like Yuka was getting rid of a little ring rust at times, but I still think they covered for it very well. Her version of Mercedes dance had me dying.
It was so cute.
And she's just one of those wrestlers that is going to get cheered. She just has that energy about her. I think, going back to predictability of outcomes, like I was saying, I was not happy with Death Riders because you know the predictability of that this match isn't going to matter. Someone's going to beat someone down. Yes, I knew Mercedes was going to win, but you don't know what's going to happen after. Is another challenger going to come out? Is something going to happen? You also, it's a good story. It's a champ solidifying their run. I can buy into that. I can enjoy that versus like, yeah, they're just going to fight each other after this.
Most TV
So I really
title
liked it.
defenses are predictable, but I like a defending
Yeah.
champion. So I'm with you on that, especially it is still the TBS title, right? It's still the mid-card title. So totally agree with you there. Totally agree with you there. But that wraps up our show. We had our main event Monet there, which was good to see, but a decent Dynamite. Certainly not the barn burners of last week, but I don't think it was intended to. But continuing to build toward Grand Slam. Some exciting stuff, it sounds like, for Collision building up to that Mid-South Street fight. Sounded like it was fun from what I'd been seeing. So despite it being like, ugh, for the story, at least the blow off to it was fun. Again, they got to clear themselves out of the wrong direction stuff that they've been going in to right some wrongs there. But and Megan Bain getting to fight her first proper match, I think will be something that's great. So stay tuned for Collision. But before we get out of here, let's all plug our shit. Ryan, we'll start with you, the person who, despite me joking earlier about Jesse Ozog being the only one to promote us, you are our social media voice and presence out there, but you also have your own stuff going on. So tell people where they can find you, where they can find us.
Blanked on a joke. I forget, like wherever something is, that's where I'll be, and I'm really mad at myself for forgetting the line. But you can find me at Mark Order Pod on all socials, and then follow my history blog hereforhistory.com at @hereforhistory or at hereforhistory, depending on the place. I actually will have a new one coming out. If it's not out by this weekend, it'll be out by very early next week.
Hell yeah! Watch Ryan rewrite history inaccurately.
Dare you?
And favorable to the Sullivan name. It's really weird. It's a whole blog just about his Irish family history. But it's
I could write it.
That would actually probably be pretty cool for being real. But Joe, are you even still eating cereal, my svelte friend? My God.
Well, I'm going back to Ryan rewriting history. I think he was trying to rewrite literature. We tried to quote Grapes of Wrath.
Yeah, was that it?
That you're like, wherever something is, I'll be there. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, and I blanked on the line.
Somewhere Jesse Ozog is probably rolling in his grave.
Botch.
I haven't done a lot of cereal reviews yet, but I do have a new box of cereal. It's based off of Friends, the show, so we'll see how that goes.
Ooh, okay.
And fingers crossed, I can win a box of the Cinnamon Toast Crunch Totino Pizza Roll cereal.
That sounds horrific. But
I have a cereal take.
I don't go have history takes. What are you doing?
No. This isn't. I'm not crossing over into your realm. Trust me. I recently, and Kate will know that I have been talking about it. Recently, re-had Cookie Crisps for the first time since I was a kid. It didn't taste the same as I remembered it.
It doesn't taste like cookies, Ryan. It's a farce.
No, but I had it as a kid. Like, so I had a taste in my head. And it wasn't cookies.
No.
No, I did that too. But I had the actual Cookie Crisp taste in my head, and it just didn't taste the same. I was very sad.
Cookie Crisp. Well, you can find me at Miss Kate Fabe on social media and on my YouTube channel. I'll be back there on Friday, so you can come and hang out with me then. But you can catch me on Fightful at Fight Club on Fightful Select and the Fightful main channel. Most nights of the week, I'll be back on the behind the paywall for Royal Rumble is what I'm trying to say. So you can join me back there. But we have a good time over at Fight Club. When I'm not here, that's usually where I am. I got sucked up over there. So, but we appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to plug our t-shirts real quick before we get out of here. Ryan, you don't have to pull up the thing if you don't want to, but we do have 4 t-shirts. If you see the backgrounds, what a pro. What a pro.
That's on Joe. He had it
ready.
Oh,
Joe. That's right. I forgot he does that. My bad. Production credit, Joe. But you can check them out at ProWrestlingTees.com. Check out the Mark Order store. I'm partial to the little pocket square one. That's my fave on the far right there. But we got the front and back. If you like our logo, if you like us, darn it, please support. Head over there, beat the shipping charges, get yourself a Mark Order shirt, get yourself all the Mark Order shirts in several styles. I dare you. I dog dare you. So don't be a wuss. But that is our show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Please leave a thumbs up on your way out. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please tell your friends to listen to the show, even if they don't watch wrestling. Be like, check out these Mark Order people. Do you like to listen to people talk about something you don't watch? Check out the Mark Order. But thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Goodbye and good night.
Put the outro overlay on.
Nailed
Guys, they
it.
like when I'm going through it. And then show outro.
This concludes the Mark Order podcast. We now return you to your